Tell the truth and you so Hakeem. What kind of lies you on the wrong side? Divide the misguided. Tried to be nice, but I had to fight for my rights. I write to ignite the mic and take flight. Switch gears on the bars like a mountain biking inside.
So, given that is your perspective, how do you see like this duality of Shakespeare as essentially a poet but a lyricist, in comparison to yourself or other hip hop artists who are lyrical as well, or lyricists as well? Do you think do you see it as just like a different language for a different crowd, but nonetheless at a similar plane, or do you see Shakespeare?
That's such an amazing question, because I don't think anyone really knows exactly what it is. The first thing that comes to mind is race a lot of the time, right? But so I personally think some of the best poets of all time, and I'm a classics major, I study Latin and Greek, right? So I try and aspire to be better than Homer. I don't try and be better than Jay-Z or this person. I'm looking at people whose poetry has lasted 2,000 years. That's my competition, right? So to me, I think some of the things I've heard in the last 10 years are as good as things I heard 2,000 years ago. And I've seen both of them. Okay. But I can't articulate that to someone who doesn't understand the language. And it comes back to the language. So I think the vast majority of people don't understand what Tupac is saying, Biggie, all the way to a Gucci Mane, all the way to a Future, to Lil Wayne, to Drake. Like all these, everyone gives each person a certain level of validation. Like, oh, this is stupid, it doesn't make sense. But then why are they a cult hero where they came from in that block deep in Miami somewhere or Florida somewhere? But Shakespeare is known worldwide. It's just, I feel like maybe there's a smaller demographic of people that understand that language. So they're the only ones that can be accessed with that music. But I personally feel like some of the best, most inspirational poets, lyricists, whatever you want to call them, came in the last 30 years when hip hop was born. Because to me, it's the truest art form, because it comes from a place of pain and brutal honesty. I think that's what's missing. I think it's the most effective news source for the youth, because people will tell you exactly what it is. There's no sugarcoating. Sometimes there's nice wordplay and whatever, but when it really cuts through, that's what really hits you, is when it's the rawness about it. I think the people can't handle the rawness, and so they look at it as vulgar or violent, and then they look at something as Shakespeare, like this is nicely packaged, it's more pleasant.
That's interesting, because the thing is, it's not like Shakespeare is like distributed and easily received. I remember when we were reading Shakespeare, before we read Shakespeare, we spent like 2 weeks learning the language of Shakespeare, the Elizabethan era language, and we would have make a couple mama's jokes with Elizabethan language. I was like, why are we even doing this? And then they brought in Shakespeare. So it's not even like it comes easily packaged. It's a lot, the words and the language and stuff, like the error you're given a lot of pretext before you're even engaging with the text. So do you feel like it's, as you said, like the hesitancy because of like the vulgar language, some of the motifs and themes, like the aggression, like the violence? Is it more of that people are hesitant about, or do you think there's an other piece about like just the merit of the literacy, like and understanding that Fetty Wap versus Rakim, we're talking about different level of language, but nonetheless, if you take high level hip hop and you take Shakespearean language and you remove what society prefers and all that, do you feel that they're at the same level?
Well, off the top of my head, I think they are definitely the same level. I put Homer, Shakespeare right next to people like, my favorite rapper personally is Ab-Soul.
Oh yeah?
That's one example. And people you've mentioned, Rakim. We know who what is considered high level conscious hip hop is, right? It's a language barrier, but part of the reason people can sit down and learn the language of Shakespeare is because it's nice. It's easily approachable. But trying to learn the language of even Rakim, someone who's a high level, so we classify as intelligent, conscious hip hop and rap, it's still it's not naturally taken in by most people. So it's just because it's also music, and Shakespeare. That's another thing that is particular to rap, is that it comes with a delivery. Whereas Shakespeare does come with its own delivery, but you can read Shakespeare and understand the energy of it. But you miss a lot of the energy when you read. You
can't read DMX's lyrics.
It's a whole different it's a whole different mindset, So I think it's taking the time out to learn the language, and also wanting and feeling comfortable enough to learn the language, because it always just seems like whoa, that's too much over there. I'd rather sit down with some Shakespeare.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in some ways the deepest reason for me was around wanting them to know that they could handle it, you know, because I feel like it gets put up as this like elite thing that like it's sort of assumed that they, you know, a lot of the teachers that teach in environments like that will be like, oh, you know, they'll say that maybe like the outsiders would be like the most like kind of sophisticated thing or whatnot. And I think like I wanted them to all walk away, even if they were like, I hate Shakespeare and I never want to read it again, being like, I've read it, I've understood it, I can handle it. If you forced me to read it or if I was put in a situation I could. If I choose not to, that's my, it's not out of fear or feeling inferior or that I can't handle it. It's actually knowing that I've read it before. And if somebody asks, like I catch the reference, yes, I understand what you're talking about, but it's not my preference. Like I wanted to at least, I felt like doing a short unit where they could at least feel like I've done that. Felt significant to me, having sort of seen what was going on in there. And as much as I love bringing in rap lyrics, like I don't think they play that role. Like they can play a role of saying, I'm studying a very sophisticated form of literature and I can analyze it and I can use terms like metaphor and simile and alliteration and so, you know, rhyme schemes, and like I can get very analytical and technical in my breakdown of it. And I know that may be just as sophisticated, if not more so, linguistically, in terms of content, all these things. But at the same time, when you say Shakespeare, I don't panic. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, yeah, that too. And now I can actually tell you how it's similar and different from the rap songs that I've studied. So I wanted them to like have that. That was the biggest motivation. I mean, it's also like part of standards.
The question is, when it comes to hip hop in education, right? So if only some can, you know, authentically teach it, the question also comes in, can everyone authentically receive it? And if you know, you have someone authentically, you know, teaching it, maybe they can reach every type of student. Is that possible? And if so, or if not, then is Shakespeare, teaching Shakespeare, a better alternative? Because, you know, it's something that, at least like in the way the schools are set up now, it's something that has been attempted to be taught to everybody. Yes. So if Shakespeare has had more success in being taught to everybody, and hip hop has to have this like piece of authenticity to learn, can hip hop be expected to essentially replace Shakespeare? Can it do what Shakespeare does?
Can it do what Shakespeare does? That's a great question. Well, is Shakespeare received by everyone anyways? Or are there people who are like, man, this is whack.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't relate to it. It doesn't connect. You know? So I think the important thing about hip hop is like you're using it to get a connection that you understand for yourself. So like I saw something, I think it was a member of Wu-Tang, I think it was Jizza, who had like the science, have you guys heard of that? Like the science, he was rapping, like emceeing, and you know, they were learning about photosynthesis or something.
I've never seen that.
And then the kid was rapping.
Before space and time, thought produced a speck of light. It was infinitely hot, so extremely bright. And within the center of this great shining, it was massive energy that was expanding in great timing. Within this fireball was all of space, a very special place with information encased. Literally the beginning. This cosmic clock was ticking and allowed space to flow before spinning. Everything we see around us, the sun, the moon, the stars, and millions of worlds that astound us. The universe in size is hard to fathom. It was composed in a region small as a single atom. Less than 1/1,000,000th the size, the point of a pen, microscopic, but on a macro level within. Dark matter, coming soon.
And what I think he was doing was allowing him to understand, I mean, again, I don't want to speak for anyone else's what was going on in their head, but like it seemed like, you know, you write something about it, it rhymes, right? You have these limitations. That, okay, it has to rhyme, it has to be like this, okay, these are the rules, now write something about it that fits into those boxes, okay. All right, now I get it. If I want to, like in break, so I'm probably going off track, but I'll get this part and then...
I'm following you.
So like in breaking, like if I want to do a move, like I'll do, you know, if I wanted to make up a totally new move, and I've taught this with kids when I wasn't as wise. I was like, just do something, see what happens.
See what happens.
And you know, sometimes it works, but you know, is it gonna work for everyone in the class? Not necessarily. But you give them a rule. You go, okay, here's a CC. Where CC is when you whip one leg up like this, bah.
Right.
All right, and you can do it. You can do it however, right? That's the foundation. I go, okay, you guys know CC? Like, yeah, we know CC. I'm like, all right, how can you change it? My God, my kids just
went crazy.
Everything. I had kids like grabbing their foot, doing a CC, and then like hopping on their other knee because I gave them like a box that they understood what that box was. They could relate to that box, and then the limitation bred creativity.
Right.
They could do anything.
Right.
And that's what the kids love.
Right.
And that's what I love about breaking. If you watch breaking, like that's kind of what's happening. People are taking this foundation, going beyond it.
Okay.
So iambic pentameter is probably a really great thing.
Right.
You know, you say, okay, here's the rules. All right, here's the box. Now can we understand it? Can we see how we can move around this?
Okay.
The question is, how much do kids relate to that?
Right.
And can kids relate more to like, all right, you're gonna write like bars. All you gotta do is say bars.
Yeah.
And kids like bars.
Okay.
You know, if you try with Shakespeare, you could be like bard.
Right.
But,
that's very real. And I feel like that's definitely something that students, you know, who come from particular backgrounds, how they respond to things like Shakespeare, because not only is the language different, or not only is the lifestyle different, the time different, the language different, the way that one would communicate these things. You listen, you know, read the sonnet 29, whatever the famous one is, and you're like, shall I compare these? You're outside telling her all these things you're gonna compare it to. Like, that's not real.
That's
game.
not gonna happen. Yeah, it's not realistic. Yeah.
So that's another piece, another question, kind of like, like, do you feel that there is a difference altogether? What is the difference between like rap and poetry? Because you mentioned like the delivery being a component.
Yeah, so that'll be the first thing. Is definitely the delivery, even if it's spoken word, the delivery alone is important. And then also the music adds a whole other level to it as well. And I was always a musician first before a rapper, and I always think of everything from the music standpoint as opposed to the lyrics. So I tell the story that way too. So that also plays into it. And again, if the lyrics are very dumbed down, it makes sense that the instrumental is very turned up and very aggressive. That also plays into it. But the difference between the two, I'd say, is it's packaging. I think people are scared of the packaging the same way they're scared of the truth. So if something is tied with a nice little Shakespeare ribbon on top of it, that's oh, this is beautiful. I love my kid to learn this. But when something is just thrown at your face, then it's like, I don't know about that. No, I got to protect my kid from this. But that's what the reality is. That's what the world is, and that's what people are hiding from.
Very real.
Yeah, the difference between the two, I personally feel like they're the same. It takes the same level of intelligence to create both. The same connection is possible. The same way people love Shakespeare. People die for hip hop. There's a reason for that, and rap music. I think really it's the packaging, and some people can't accept the packaging. Some people love that packaging. They want it to be right in your face, and they understand why it's like that. But for the most part, people don't agree with that.